Beautiful Wednesday morning. Good morning. It's 7th day of May 2025. Welcome to Good Morning Kenya. I am Victor Olo. Welcome to this beautiful show. A lot is in store for you, so please stick with us. And later on the Viewpoint on Wednesday, we take a look at socio-economic issues that is affecting us as a nation. One of them that I'm going to be talking about is that finally we have got a caretaker panel. The IABC selection panel finally got some names which were forwarded to the president yesterday, and now president has got 7 days to pick the suitable candidates and forward the names to parliament for approval, and thereafter they'll be sworn in and the house will be full ready to go. I want us to take a look at that later on. What should we expect? We have got so many by-elections coming up. Some of them are way long overdue, including my own constituency. Yes. Leave alone even my constituency. Banisa constituency has never had representation for the last 2 years. Vivian, 2 years. And that is exactly what we're talking about. Karibu, good morning.
Good morning. Umeniambia karibu. Asante sana.
Karibu sana.
A very good morning to each and every one of you who is tuned in on the show this morning. We are coming to you live from the broadcasting house. My name is Vivian Ndegwa, and we have a lot in store for you right here on the program. Among one of the interviews that I'll be having, just to ask you a question, have you ever just sat down and tried to think about the children who are usually born in prison, the children whose mothers have been imprisoned while pregnant and they have to be born over there, or the very young ones who are in prison with their mothers, and they have no choice but to be there because maybe they don't have an alternative, they don't have a relative who can look after them as their mother is serving their term in prison. Well, our conversation will be on the impact of imprisoned mothers on their children. That is what we will be talking about, and joining me for that discussion will be one Miriam Washira, who is the founder and executive director, Justice Nest. You definitely want to stay tuned for that. I'll also be having another interview where we'll be talking about an alternative dispute resolution, and with this we'll be looking at mediation as an alternative dispute resolution. You definitely want to stay tuned for all the discussions that we have planned for you this morning. Now, Ray, good morning, and it's been a while since we last had you on set. How have you been?
Well, good morning to you. And as they say it, or how I learnt it in Belarus, is that Dobrizhen.
What's
Dobrizhen, Vivian, and Victor there, that is saying good morning.
Dobrizhen.
Yeah, Dobrizhen.
Which language is that?
Belarusian.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So you're
then
in
when
Belarus.
You're saying thank you.
Were you in Belarus?
Yes, I was.
So you are good both home and away, or you're dangerous both home and away?
Not talking about
I know where that is coming from.
I know where you're coming from. And this is according to the latest data, that is provisional data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, that indicates County, Kiambu, Nairobi, and Meru are the most dangerous counties to live in. These are just the provisional data from a report released yesterday by the National Bureau of Statistics. There you can get it on their website. And this is in relation to crimes reported to the police in the year 2024. The reason why Victor is saying I'm dangerous home and away, well, let's just say I come from Meru, I work in Nairobi, and I live in Kiambu. What does that say about me?
Dangerous all round.
And as they say, all round.
Oh yes, we are dangerous home and away.
Yeah. Home and away and to the neighbors.
Imagine.
Well, what can I say? Lugamta, stay dangerous. We are staying dangerous. Now that brings us to the serious side of things, Victor. Yeah. We'll have this conversation you may attend after we've briefed Kenyans on what has been happening in the last 12 hours or so. So this is just a quick report, and also to emphasize all these details and more are available on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. But then let's start off to breakthrough. Some good news, as we said there, some by-elections are lined up. Why? Now President William Ruto is expected to forward the names of the chairperson and 6 commissioners for the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to the National Assembly for vetting and approval in the coming days. This is after the president received the report of the IABC selection panel chaired by Dr. Nelson Makanda at State House, Nairobi.
The handing of a report by the selection panel marks a significant step in the country's bid to fill the vacant positions that have hampered major electoral matters, including by-elections and boundary delimitation. While commending the panel for the work that has lasted over 2 months, the head of state says he is well seized of his constitutional responsibilities, emphasizing the need of restoring the full functionality of the electoral body. The president says that a credible and operational electoral commission is essential in strengthening democracy, upholding the rule of law, and preparing for future electoral processes in a timely and transparent manner. In the report are names of 2 successful candidates for the position of chairperson of the IABC, from which the president will nominate 1, and 9 candidates for commissioner positions, from which the president will pick 6. IABC has not been fully functional since the retirement of its former chairperson, the late Wafula Chebukati, alongside Commissioners Professor Abdi Guliye and Boya Moru. Juliana Cherera, Francis Wanderi and Justus Nyang'aya had resigned at the head of the 2022 presidential elections, while Irene Masit resigned almost a year later. The IABC interviews were conducted in 2 phases, the first being the chairperson hopefuls and the second being the commissioner hopefuls. Among notable candidates who seek to lead the IABC as chair are former Constitutional Implementation Commission chairperson Charles Nyochai, former Chief Registrar of the Judiciary Anna Madi, lawyer and chair Kenya Power Board Joy Madivo, and lawyers Patrick Nyaberi Lumumba and Duncan Ojwang.
Well, as he was receiving that particular report, remember also the president was on a tour of Narok where he made quite the utterances and promises to the area constituents, including building of some institutions and land allocation there. Remember, further details are available on our website. Now, a section of Kenyans are in support of the entrenchment of various development funds, among them the National Government Constituency Development Fund. This was a clarion call during a public participation exercise in various parts of the country on the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill of 2025. John Kahiro with their sentiments on the bill.
The 4-day national public participation exercise on the proposed Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2025 intensified for the 2nd day across the country. In Kapenguria, West Pokot County, locals and the area leadership praised the fund for transforming the region through critical infrastructure development and the support for education through the bursary programs for the needy children.
Tulikuwa tunapata CDF kama kawaida. Watoto wetu walikuwa nasoma vizuri. Sasa hii watoto wamehangaika, unakuta watoto uniform kila kona. Hakuna pesa, hakuna nini uniform. Sasa hii uniform tapeleka wapi?
Ngane na wakaji akapenguria, aswa akapenguria constituency. Mashule zote, si kununua shamba, si kujenga mashule, sio kuajiri hata walimu. Wale wanafanya kazi ya board of management kwa mashule zetu.
And in Dagoretti South constituency, the area member of parliament, John Kiarie, rallied his constituents to support the entrenchment of the development funds in the constitution, hailing the KT as instrumental in delivering tangible projects at the grassroots level.
NGCDF is working. What we should do is to fortify NGCDF. And the end user is the constituent.
Na wazazi wameshukuru sana na wamesema NGCDF iendelee kwa sababu inafanya kazi nzuri kwa shule.
And in Embu County, locals also engaged in the consultation exercise, with the majority advocating for the entrenchment of the NGCDF in the constitution.
Hivyo wakati ililetwa hii CDF imeweza kusaidia watoto wengi na wameweza kusoma kwa sababu kumekuwa na ile kuna shule zile za kwenda siku kirudi nyumbani.
Kama sio hii pesa, shule zetu mingi hazingekuwa zinakaa vile zinakaa. Kweli au sio kweli?
Similar views were shared in the neighboring county of Kirinyaga as residents unanimously backed the retention of NGCDF.
CDF inasaidia sana kwa watoto wetu wenye wako na shida, wanasaidika kwa mheshimiwa through bursary.
Maendeleo ya huku Kirinyaga Central ama kule kwingine katika Kirinyaga tumeona usaidizi mwingi kutoka kwa hiyo huduma ya NGCDF. Watoto wetu wanasoma vizuri.
It was the same script in Quisero and Ikolomani constituencies as area legislators vowed to rally behind the establishment of NGCDF, the Senate Oversight Fund, and the National Government and Affirmative Action Fund in the Constitution.
Pesa ya CDF ibaki wapi? Na yule ambaye anasema pesa ya CDF itolewe, mama ya mabarabara itolewe, mi huwa anasema ninapatia nini? Red card.
The exercise is set to end on Thursday, 8th of May 2025.
Now, Labour Cabinet Secretary Alfred Mutua has written to the Senate Speaker Amason Kingi accusing nominated Senator Gloria Orobwa of running a fake recruitment agency for export of labour. The CS, who appeared before the Senate Labour Committee, also claimed that the nominated senator has been extorting other recruitment agencies and also threatened ministry officials. Senator Orobwa, while admitting her office was working with the National Employment Authority in looking for jobs for youth in Bobasi, said her interest in labour export was only to oversight the process.
Committee meeting with Labour Cabinet Secretary Alfred Mutua degenerated into a shouting match as nominated Senator Gloria Orobwa faced off with the Cabinet Secretary and recruitment agencies.
Chair, not personalized this, Chair. This is about Kenyans who have been born.
Senator Orobwa had raised transparency questions regarding the fate of 89 Kenyans who had paid 15,000 shillings to recruitment agencies but were yet to get the job opportunities. CS Mutua explained the job opportunities were being availed in phases and people who didn't travel had been refunded.
Countries operate with a quota. They say they want 100,000 nurses from different countries, and they allocate quotas. So you find that Kenya is never allocated these quotas. So when we go to bargain, we tell them we have nurses. So they say, okay, Kenya will now allocate you 10,000 nurses per year.
The Cabinet Secretary revealed there were plans to avail funds to Youth Development Fund and Wezo Fund so that Kenyans can access loans for paying recruitment fees charged by recruitment agencies. CS Mutua tabled a letter he has written to Senate Speaker Amason Kingi accusing nominated Senator Gloria Orobwa of running a fake recruitment agency and threatening ministry officials.
Senator Orobwa has been playing the role of a recruitment agent without any valid registration. She printed posters and purported to be providing jobs for many innocent youths without the ability or legal standing to do so. Senator Gloria Orobwa has also been threatening public servants in the ministry, making demands that cannot be met and telling officers that you will get them fired.
I don't want to be sidetracked by Alfred Mutua's drama. So I want the committee, I hope you will rule that we'll be able to move forward with the matter that has brought us here.
Although the committee declined to discuss the letter, CS Mutua challenged Senator Orobwa to table evidence to support her claim that thousands of Kenyans were being conned to pay for jobs abroad under the watch of Labour Ministry.
In all these recruitment drives, we have seen you working very hard, Cabinet Secretary, going to every other county. Kisumu, wherever, all these counties you've gone to recruit in partnerships with the agents. Don't you have data that you are tracking, that you can give? That is what I was expecting. I was expecting you to come here and slap us with the truth.
So anybody who says they were conned is the one who has been denied a refund. I do not have a single record of anybody who said they chose not to go and have been denied a refund.
The Labour Ministry has, however, cautioned Kenyans seeking jobs abroad against travelling on tourist visas instead of working visas.
If you have been a beneficiary of this particular labour export initiative by government, well, this is your opportunity to weigh in this conversation, and we'll welcome your feedback. Get us on X at KBC Channel 1. Now to the courts. Milimani Chief Magistrate Court has issued a warrant of arrest for former Isili North Police Station Commander Rebecca Muraya for snubbing caught in a trial case where she's charged with torture and abuse of office. Muraya, who is charged alongside his junior sergeant Abdisalam Ahmed, allegedly tortured a woman of British national Aini Hussein Mahmoud on December 31st, 2021. Details of this in our Skills of Justice segment.
When the case came up for mentioning, Muraya's legal team informed the court that she was ill and unable to attend, but did not supply the court with medical documents to support the claims. The prosecuting counsel objected to the explanation and applied for a warrant of arrest, claiming Muraya's absence was unjustified. Nairobi Chief Magistrate Lucas Onyina agreed, noting the lack of supporting evidence. The torture was allegedly meant to coerce her into withdrawing a complaint against an accused Abdihakim Said Jama. The case will be mentioned again on May 19, 2025.
Now, the Kenya Human Rights Commission wants the government to allocate more resources to public hospitals to enable them adequately deal with the rising sexual, reproductive and maternal health needs. This follows a recent report by the Ministry of Health that revealed rising cases of post-abortion care patients in public facilities across the country.
In May 2025, the Ministry of Health released a study showing that in 2023, Kenya recorded 2.85 million pregnancies, with approximately 792,000 ending up in induced abortions. The study further revealed that more than half of all women with post-abortion complications sought post-abortion care in public health facilities, with most lacking resources to provide much-needed post-abortion care.
Kenya's sexual and reproductive health landscape remain marred by neglect, weak accountability, and inadequate investment. The failure of the law enforcement, health institutions, and policy actors to respond effectively to rape and defilement has left many girls pregnant.
Right now, there are even counties where health workers are now in strike. Access to service the products are not there, so the medicine that is required is also, the supply is not also very good. So the capacity of these health facilities to provide these critical services is greatly undermined.
Addressing the media, stakeholders at the Kenya Human Rights Commission decried underfunding in the health sector as a major impediment to adequate care for women in need of reproductive health care.
The Abuja Declaration requires that countries allocate 15% of their budget. That has not been met by our country, and now more than ever, the government needs to prioritize this by ensuring that they not only meet the Abuja Declaration 15%, but surpass that, to also ensure that now that the donor funding, or rather monies that were being brought into the country through USAID funding, is also augmented by the budget. So we are
in efforts to reduce abortion cases, stakeholders have emphasized on the need to scale up youth-friendly and adolescent-specific sexual reproductive health services, including emergency contraception, safe abortion where legally permitted, and psychosocial support.
Now, Kenyatta National Hospital has etched its name in the annals of medical history after doctors at the facility conducted a successful advanced surgery on a 22-year-old Moses Mwendwa. The surgery, first of its kind in the globe that stretched for over 7 hours, was led by a team of multidisciplinary surgeons who literally rewrote the rules of possibility by restoring sensation to the stump of the amputated arm of Mwendwa. Our reporter Joseph Wahungu gives us the details of the breakthrough that has not only restored the nerve endings for Mwendwa, but also positioned Kenya as a nerve center of global medical innovation.
On January 12th this year, 22-year-old Moses Mwendwa, a software engineering student, fell after a church service in Nairobi. It was a fall that would radically alter his life after doctors informed him the fall had led to a life-threatening condition known as compartment syndrome, and the only way to save his life was to amputate him arm above the elbow.
After there naweza kuambia kwa akili hakuna kitu yote nasikia, hakuna ile pain ilikuwa zinaweza kuambia hapa kuna mkono ama iko. Sasa mimi niko sawa. Naweza ambia mtu yule ako pale nje azin kwa unasumbuka na hizo nerves. Sasa Kenyatta wako sawa.
Fast forward 3 months after the incident, Mwendwa was back in hospital, and this time he was part of a medical history as a team of doctors at the facility performed groundbreaking surgery to restore sensation at the stump of his missing left hand in a medical procedure known as targeted sensory renovation surgery.
We take the nerves that supply your feeling in the fingers and reroute them to the skin that is left behind. And by doing that, then the person is able, if they touch that area, the skin around that stump, they are able to perceive that this is, I'm feeling my small finger.
After more than 7 hours in the theatre, he emerged after a successful surgery, with doctors saying he became the first person in the world to undergo the procedure that not only restored sensation to his arm, but also promised better prosthetic control and pain management.
So what they tend to undergo, you can actually come to the hospital and tell you, oh, my right hand is aching too much, but he has no right hand. It's already been cut. So it's called phantom. So what we've been able to do is to answer this challenge that these patients actually experience, the phantomness of the limb which is not there.
Now, in the remote valleys of Samburu County, becoming a Moran is not a choice, but it's a right, a calling, and in many ways, a chain. We meet a young man who chose to break that chain when 25-year-old Joseph Lekuraya laid down his spear and picked up the Bible. He didn't just walk away from tradition. He walked away into a storm of brutality, betrayal, and near death. He was beaten, abandoned, and nearly killed, not by enemies, but by his own brothers. Today, Ben Chumba brings you the story of unspeakable pain, unshakable faith, and the quiet revolution of a man who now preaches peace in a land where silence once screamed louder than bullets. Here's the cost of quitting Moranism.
In this land where boys leap into manhood with pride, spears and silence, one man dared to fall from tradition and rise in faith.
Mimi ni Morani kabisa, ile ya huko tu naenda kuchunga ng'ombe. Naenda kufanya tu ile mafiti tu ya waishi.
This is what it cost him to choose the Bible over the blade. A near-death beating delivered not by strangers but by brothers. In the heart of Samburu East, under this lone tree, stands a man once feared, now forgiven.
Mimi naanza kuhubiri, watu nawachapa mimi, hata wakati mwingine natafuta na punduki. Sasa mimi natoroka kabisa, naenda mpaka Narok. Naenda kukaa huko mwezi kama 4.
His name is Joseph Lukureya. At just 25, he walked away from Moranism, a sacred, strict warrior tradition in Samburu culture. But quitting wasn't just rebellion. It was a declaration of war on everything he once was.
Orani nakuja kutafuta mimi, wanachapa. Wanachapa kabisa na kuambia kwa nini naenda kanisa. Uko na shida gani kuenda kanisa?
Morani akaenda kanisa, Warani wanasema hatutaki Morani aende kanisa, aende apige mkono huko makofi na wa mama.
They dragged him into the bush. They beat him mercilessly. His crime, attending church. Singing in a congregation that included women. His punishment, a savage reminder that tradition does not let go easily.
Hiyo akati mimi na shafa, naenda kulala hospitali wiki mbili. Watu tu ya community peke yake lipia hospitali hiyo wiki mbili, hata mkono hapa amefunjika. Lakini Mungu tu amefanya hiyo, ni mkono yangu sasa iko sawa. Hiyo malama yote meisha, lakini ni Mungu tu.
From his hospital bed, he chose to forgive. And when he stood again, he stood not with a spear, but with scripture. He called it usiogope, do not be afraid. From the soil where he was nearly buried, a church was born. Today, more than 50 worshippers gather every Sunday beneath this tree, including 10 former Morans who followed him from war to the word.
Hata hiyo Warani imeshapa mimi. Hiyo Warani sahi kuna kwa hiyo kanisa sahi. Sasa nataka kuambia Warani, wacheni story ya waisi. Waisi dawa yake ni kukufa tu. Hakuna story nyingine. Mimi wakati hajaokoka, yuko na rafiki yangu Warani wengi sana. Lakini akati mimi naokoka, hiyo Warani moja sahi naona wengine mekufa.
But Joseph's message isn't just spiritual, it's social. A call to break the cycles of violence, banditry and revenge that have scarred northern part of the country generations.
Nataka tu kuambia Warani, kujeni tu tuingie tu neno ya Mungu, kila kitu ilikuwa sawa. Hiyo kitu nataka kuenda kuiba huko, napata hiyo kwa kanisa, lakini hajaiba mtu.
Tunapenda mahali tuko saizi na hatuko na mpango yoyote ya kurudi huko kwenda kuiba tena. Tunaangana kutoa wenye wako huko wakuje kwa kwetu mahali sisi tuko, ndio tuache na hiyo story ya wizi.
Now community leaders are demanding that his courage be recognized nationally.
This boy suffered, young man suffered kwa sababu ya peace from his community. Ako na uongo yote, he almost died. But alisema hapana, I must go on with peace process.
Huyo Murani badala ya Githeri man kupatiwa medal na president, hii ndio watu wanafaa kupewa medal.
Mwenye ako na uwezo tunaweza saidia hawa tujengee hiyo kanisa yao, hata kujenga choo peke yake huko.
In a land of warriors, it may be that the bravest fight is the one for forgiveness.
I commend that young man for picking to be different and staying the course. A majority would not have endured the pain and suffering, especially from people who we refer to as family and brothers for something that we believe in. May his endeavors continue to take him places there. That is 25-year-old Joseph Lekuria. You can find out the further details just in case you missed that. They're already uploaded on our channel on KBC Channel 1 YouTube, and further details available on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. Now we delve into matters business, where Kenya's economy expanded 4.7% in 2024, which is a slower pace than the 5.7% registered in 2023. The Kenya National Bureau of Statistics attributes the slower growth rate to subdued performance of the agriculture sector due to poor rains, contraction in the construction sector, and challenges in credit access by the private sector. Benson Riebo with the details.
Which contributes 22.5% to Kenya's overall economy, recorded a slower growth rate of 4.4% when compared to 7.1% registered in 2023. The latest economic survey blames this on erratic rains that hurt production of some farm produce, as well as depressed export earnings from horticulture and tea.
Maize in the last year, it reduced. The production reduced from 47.6 bags to 44.7 bags. This is 90 kg bags.
Among sectors that registered growth at a faster pace was manufacturing at 2.8%, tourism at 14.7%, and ICT at 8.3%.
What has saved our economy is the diversification. Our economy is well diversified, and that is why even in the middle of many major shocks, the economy can still demonstrate resilience.
Construction and credit were the sectors that recorded slower growth.
The number of housing units completed went down, really down. In 2023 it was 3,357, but in 2024 it was only 1,655.
The 4.7% economic growth expansion in 2024 helped Kenya create 782,000 jobs, with the informal sector accounting for 90% of the jobs, as has been the case in recent years. However, the private sector faced challenges in accessing credit.
Where we have had the greatest challenge is that the private sector has not been getting a lot of financial support in terms of credit extension.
Kenya exported goods worth 1.1 trillion shillings, mainly horticulture and tea, while imports were valued at 2.7 trillion shillings, with petroleum products and industrial machinery topping the list.
Now to sports, Football Kenya, that is Football Kenya Federation, FKF, has announced a raft of measures meant to arrest incidences of fan trouble and violence in stadium during Premier League matches. Now, the announcement by FKF comes in the wake of fan violence witnessed during the Premier League match pitting Gor Mahia against Shabana FC at Gusii Stadium last Sunday. In order to prevent the reoccurrence of such incidents in future, the Federation has announced launching programs to sensitize the fans on the importance of safety, restraint and proper match day conduct, as well as training of stewards of the FKF Premier League and National Super League clubs so as to improve their crowd management skills. The Federation also announced the drafting of an official security guide to manage the management of security across the league matches in the country. In addition, the Federation sought to collaborate more with the National Police Service in the formation of a multi-agency security team to combat hooliganism on match days. The fracas witnessed during last Sunday's match between Gor Mahia and Shabana left at least 72 people injured.
Enhanced Fun Education Program. FKF will use all the tools available at its disposal to run a civic education campaign to sensitize fans on the importance of safety, restraint, and proper match day conduct. Steward Training Program is the second initiative that FKF is taking to kickstart the process of training official stewards for all FKF Premier League and National Super League clubs to improve crowd management and enhance security at match venues. We're in the process of drafting an official security policy for match day security, which will guide the management of security across all league matches in the country.
Now that effectively puts a cap on our news brief this morning. Remember, this is in the headlines on Good Morning Kenya, where we keep you abreast on what has been happening in the last 18 hours. If you like further details, available on our website, www.kbc.co.ke. For the videos, you can get them on our YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1. Some of the developing stories, and this is a major story across the globe, is that voting for the new Pope is set to begin today, with the cardinals entering the secret conclave there. Now, the voting desks of the 133 cardinals have been set up inside the Sistine Chapel ahead of the conclave. So, under the domed ceiling of the Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, 133 cardinals will vote to elect the Catholic Church's 267th Pope. The day is set to begin at 10 a.m., that is 9 a.m. BST, with a mass in St. Peter's Basilica. The service will be televised and will be presided over by Giovanni Battista Re, the 91-year-old Cardinal Dean, who was also the celebrant of Pope Francis' funeral. In the early afternoon, a mobile signal within the territory of the Vatican will be deactivated to prevent anyone from taking part in the conclave from contacting the outside world. Now, this is something we're going to be keeping tabs on, given that it is of global importance to know that who is going to be replacing the late Pope Francis there. Then after that, some of the highlights of today is that one of the three ecclesiastical staff will be allowed to stay in the Sistine Chapel despite not being a cardinal elector, even though they will not have to leave the premise during the counting of the votes. The moment extra ohms is pronounced marks the start of the cardinal's isolation and the start of the conclave. We'll continue keeping tabs. That puts a cap on matters in the headlines. Be sure to tune in for subsequent bulletins at exactly 1 as well 7 and 9 p.m. I leave you in the capable hands of Victor as he takes you through today's candid conversation, as well as Vivian, who's going to be coming on later, looking at matters of health. Do keep it KBC Channel 1. I'm Regina Manyara.
hapa ni wapi? Ni uwanja wa wafu. Kama nyie mnayeuawa na kutupwa.
Hawezi kutoka paka leo ni mchafu. Hapana. Sasa makosa ni ya nani? Tabia njema ufunzwa nyumbani. Wewe hii tabia nyingine imetoka wapi?
Kwa nini usinichukie tuende kwako ili nikakupikie wewe?
Lazima niseme mzee Mombasa.
Sitaki kusikia upuzi wako. Nimeshampata niliyekuwa nikimtaka. Lakini hukujua kama nitapoteza macho.
Ustad responsibility ni ya nani? Ni yako ama ni yangu?
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
All right, welcome back. Good morning. It's 10 minutes past 7 a.m. Good morning. Welcome to the program. I'm Victor Olo. So today being a Wednesday, of course, I really want to take a look what is happening in the country, politically speaking, and most importantly, socio-economically, being the viewpoint. Excuse me. Okay. So I want us to take a look at really what's happening. For example, now the president has received finally the final report of the IABC nominees, and now we expect the next process to continue. He'll be handing over after picking the suitable candidates and thereafter sending the names to Parliament for approval. I have Wilson Sosion, who is former nominated MP and former NAT Secretary, in studio with me already. Good morning, Mwalimu.
Good morning, Victor.
And Patrick Oso is a politics and governance expert already in studio with me. Patrick, good to see you.
Good to see you, sir.
And Peter Njeru, who is a political analyst, also in studio. Gentlemen, karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
So let's start where we should. Sosion, it's been long overdue. And here we are, finally. There's some white smoke. Much we're also waiting for the white smoke from the Vatican, but finally there's some white smoke at the end of the day.
Yes, there is white smoke.
Right.
We've seen the white smoke.
Yes.
And once we see the white smoke, then the rest we will see the IABC Commission on the balcony with a chair.
Yes.
Taking over their responsibilities at the IABC. It has been overdue, and you know, we don't have a chair, we don't have even a one commission. And from the Kriegler report and the history of this country, we need a working IABC that works through a number of things that needs to be done. One is audit of 2022 general elections. Two, conducting by-elections for many vacant constituencies. I think is a huge number, and some have been doing without, some constituencies have done without members of parliament for over 2 years.
Yes, Banisa.
And you see that is a big injustice. So there's a lot of work cut out. And then number three, registration of voters in preparation for 2027, and generally the preparation for 2027 general elections, including the delimitation of boundaries. So there's a lot of work cut out. The Secretariat has been in place, and I'm sure they've done what they're able to do. But of course, they are limited to do certain functions. But now with the coming in of the chair and commissioners, I think all shall be well. The statement by the president acknowledging receipt of that report is signaling the final conclusion, because once the president is in receipt of those names, then within 7 days, he must transmit those names to Parliament. And Parliament will vet and approve, I think within 7 or within 14 days as well. And then they stand appointed and they are gazetted to office. And that is the procedures of Chapter 15 Constitution. So we look forward to having an IABC in place, and we see IABC operating, and the country gets assured of a free, transparent, verifiable, and accountable elections of 2027.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Patrick, based on what Molima said, finally, there is some light at the end of the tunnel, as what I call the white smoke. He's given us a very good breakdown on what should follow now that the report is with the president. Until now, we'll have a fully formed commission.
As a young person,
yeah,
and as a young leader in this country, and with fresh mind, and I want to say that in future, I think we need to do some referendum so that we have all stakeholders involved in matters of reconstituting an IBC. And I want to say this following a letter that was drafted by His Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka to the President. And this to show the quench for all the stakeholders to be involved in selection of the IBC commissioners or the chairman. I'm saying this because, you see, this will help the people who have applied the job or they have applied to be the commissioners not to have allegiance to the state, because I cannot fully, attest that we can have fair and free or justice within the commissioners, because all these people are allegiance to the state. So I want to say this with a lot of confidence also in the matters of all sectors of government, including judicially and also including the security forces, whereby we should have a very independent body, that which is used or that they can use in order to do selections, even to the IG of police, the CDF, the Chief Justice, because if all these people are vetted and approved by the state, that means they are inclined to the state. So what I'm requesting for the people that who qualify to go ahead and have the, to run the IBC, to actually know that we are in a very new dispensation, and they shouldn't in any manner have or embrace any malpractice within the institution. So we want to call them to be very responsible citizens and to be patriotic, and especially when we are coming to elections in 2027. The reason I say about stakeholders is that in this case, for example, for people who have probably declared or maybe they have vested interest to run for Kenyan presidency, like me, because that to me is a very sensitive thing, that now that I will be running for the Kenyan 60th president, I'm a stakeholder to the commissioners or the people that will be elected. Anyway, it is because it is our country and the country that is Kenya, whereby a lot of nepotism is practiced, and that is very key to me as a leader and a young leader in this country.
Great. Peter, what do you think? The country has been waiting for the commission for far too long. I mean, we've had the commission itself having a lot of issues during elections. But as a Kenyan who's voted 1,000,001 times, exaggerated though, and you have a story to tell about how Kenya has been democratically speaking, what should we expect now from the new commission? Of course, we're still waiting for more processes to be followed.
Thank you. That's a very good question. As Kenyans, what we should expect now is nothing but the best. Nothing but the best in the sense that we've had a very rough history in the area of elections. And the team that was constituted to identify the nominees for the commission's position is a competent team, and we put it out to now those that have been shortlisted for appointment. When the list is finally released for the names that have been appointed for those positions, to go an extra mile and commit ethically to give Kenya nothing else but the best. when we look at the history of our country in matters elections,
yes,
it's quite patched with both good and bad moments. When you look at 2007, the then Electoral Commission mismanaged the election and the country almost went to the abyss. These are things that nobody wants to imagine they can happen in this country again. And therefore, my challenge and expectation as a Kenyan and as a leader is that those that will get the challenge now to lead us to the next election cycle will be able to give the country nothing but the best.
Yeah.
I have no suspicion with the panel that was interviewing and then shortlisting the names of nominees. I have no suspicion with the process because it was within the law, constituted within the law. It was done openly. All of us would follow on screens that who are being interviewed. We interacted with them through the airwaves. We had their level of intelligence. We have a feeling on who they are, what they can do, their experience and competence in various areas, viewing from their history, where they have served the nation and worked in other places. And so when I sit as a leader, waiting to hear the finalists being announced and waiting to see the white smoke, I am confident and sure that the country will get the best. Now, power corrupts. Power corrupts. I would also challenge those that will be given those responsibilities to lead our electoral body, to exercise utmost fidelity to the law so that they don't get into places of making decisions and power and lead the country in the wrong direction. We had a competent IABC in the last general election, and we saw what happened. Some were announcing results here at Serena.
Yes.
Others were announcing at Bomas. But these are guys that when they were given those responsibilities...
That was actually bringing me to the next question, because the collegiality and synchronization between the chairman, the entire executive, and the commissioners is one thing that has always... I mean, it's not something new to all of us. Last time we saw the Cherera 4, we saw the Lozina Combes of this world. We've seen the division in the IABC. So that brings the question of unity in the commission. I mean, does it mean that we have got different forces in the commission itself, vested interest in the commission itself, or we have some other external forces that infiltrates the commission? Let me start with you, Mwalimu. I'll come back to you.
No, it is common knowledge that the 2022 elections, there was an intention to overturn the will of the people of Kenya through some members of the IABC Commission, particularly the Cherera 4. And of course, they were indicted and dismissed eventually. And that would be very preposterous. The role of the commissioners is not to vary what has been decided at the polling stations. And it would be very dangerous for any commissioner, whether it doesn't matter the beliefs, it doesn't matter the political inclinations, if any, to try and tamper with the final decision of the people of Kenya. So, suggesting that after the verification of results, because I was in Bomas as the agent of the president myself, and after receiving forms 34B from all constituencies and verifying results, and they're automatically finally tallied, you cannot tell us that you take those results again to review it in another process.
That was not the only incident.
The law is
also
clear.
Saw the Kivitu
the law then,
we also saw the Kivitu Commission.
The law then, once the numbers are established, the law then empowers, and the Constitution, the chair IABC to declare the results. It cannot be that once the elections are done, the numbers are there.
There is no doubt about that.
Then you retreat to some room to vary the numbers.
There is no doubt about that. My question is, Mwalimu, is
was the contention.
We've had just a minute. We also had an issue. You remember what happened in KICC when Kivuitu was just about to announce the election, even during the referendum and all that. It has been dodged a lot of what Peter said,
and the truth of what happened in 2007 is only known by Kivuitu in the grave.
No.
Because, yeah, it's true. It is true. Why?
No.
Why? Kenyans will never, ever know the truth of what was declared in 2007. That's a fact of history. We were here. We are stakeholders in this country. We voted and we participated in the process. But then that became water under the bridge. It led us to a coalition government to cure everything and bury and forget.
Yes.
But what Kivuitu pronounced were those really the authentic and the accurate outcome of 2007 election.
So the question is, so that we look, so that we get the positive side of it.
Flowing from 2007.
Right.
That is why we have wanted an IABC that does business above board. And that is why now in Kenya, elections begins and end at the polling station.
I hear you. But my point is, and my question is, that why is it possible to have a stable and united commission that would deliver an election to the last one without any sense of
that is why there was a selection panel. That is why Kenyans submitted their applications, and that is why Kenyans were shortlisted.
Okay.
They were interviewed because we envisage a professional, impartial, independent, and cohesive IABC that facilitates. Their job is only to facilitate the election. Their job is not to determine. The determination of election outcome is exercised by the people of Kenya through their sovereign power at the ballot.
Okay.
Their business is only to facilitate.
Let me come back. Let me come to Patrick. Patrick, now, based on what you've had, Kenyans were given time to submit their memoranda, to submit their opinion, to submit their views, and we watched it live here on KBC. It was all live.
Yeah.
But even with the due process being followed until the end, we'll still have, different opinions at the end of the election. Between now and election, everything will be okay, all right?
Right.
But when it comes to that, we've seen the division between the commission itself.
Yes. I want to actually just respond a little bit of what Honorable Sosiona said. You heard the sentiment of SK Macharia the other time, indicating that there were irregularities on who won the elections. I don't want to major on that. That's just an indication of a lot of malpractice or a lot of irregularities that is within the IBC. And I want to say this. Once the elections will be declared, I would request my fellow colleagues in security agencies, actually when the sword will be at lunch for anyone to go for it, to remain neutral and to be proactive. What I mean is that I want to see the military, I want to see the police being deployed in all the constituencies, in all areas. Because the elections that we are looking forward is not an election like any other elections. You have had people talk ill of the government today, which is not my main concern. My main concern is to see a credible elections, and especially which one that is coming. 2027 elections is not like any other elections, and we do not want to see what happened the previous years, whereby people going, division in IBC, others announcing the result in different places. And that one is an indication that we have a very huge problem. And as I indicated earlier, we have a problem with nepotism in this country, whereby everyone in their position today, they are there not by merits, they are there because somebody else politically is connecting them to them. And I want to say this. I have seen that nepotism actually being extended to our police forces, to our KDF, and to our other security agencies, whereby in a political rally, you can imagine in a political rally whereby a politician has got to actually, talk to an IG in front of civilians. And I want to say this for the respect of our security agencies in this country, that they need to be very neutral, as is provided by the Constitution, Article 239. They need to make sure that we become proactive, because we do not want issues in 2027 or any other election in this country whereby people want to deviate the win or the elections to the direction they want.
Yeah.
So that's my submission in regard to what we have seen and witnessed before. So I can tell you, although that we have never had any credible election in this country. I'm talking this having worked with the National Intelligence Service of this country. So what I'm looking forward is, because having worked with the security agencies in this country, I am calling them, once the electioneering period will be declared, they will, and they should remain very neutral and begin to to plan and strategize on how we can have a credible elections, so that we don't have people and civilians, people fighting.
You know, the issue of by-elections, Peter, we have got so many by-elections coming up. And now, even after that, it seems that the commission is going to come with a whole, and find a room full of assignments waiting for them. Starting from what Osion said, there's the limitation of boundaries, which is long overdue. By-elections in the country, across the country. We have got, for them to draw a budget that's going to run them until next election, and so much more. I mean, you can imagine sitting in that commission. Just imagine you're sitting in that commission.
Well, before I sit in the commission,
Yes.
allow me to wade on what my brother
Go
has
ahead.
just talked about, high-level suspicion. And this is a great disservice to our nation, where majority of our citizens have a level of mistrust. And let me say that Kenya is a very fascinating society, because we tend to be highly optimist and highly pessimist in equal measure.
Yes.
Such that today we are full of negativity and mistrust and hate, and almost immediately this afternoon we are full of love and praises and looking forward. But what I would advise each one of us is that we need to train our eyes and mind and soul and spirit on the things that are positive until things are wrong. When you
can repeat that. You can repeat that.
We need to train our mind, soul, and spirit on the things that are positive until things go wrong. Such that I don't have to assume that the next general election will be rigged. I don't have to assume the next person to be hired by state or by a company CEO will be hired on basis of tribe and the other relationship.
Yes.
Let me trust and believe that my CV will be properly looked into, will be considered on matters of merit until it doesn't happen. Why am I saying this? In this country, we've had so many elections carried out. Majority of them have been contested in courts, and only one has been overturned, presidential election. And therefore, it does not therefore mean that our fears and our suspicion is valid, because put to the threshold of the law, it is proof that the process was credible, the process was free and fair. And even the one election that was overturned by the court was repeated, and the results of the repeat election were found by law to be credible. That's why we are a nation up to now. And now coming to the mandate of the IABC, once we see the white smoke, it's a very exciting picture to paint, that you come to an office when you are barely 2 years away from a general election. Planning a general election is not a walk in the park. It's not easy. But even before they think about planning the general election, there are so many by-elections that are sitting in between. There are so many other responsibilities, constitutional duties they have to execute before venturing into matters 2027. And I see very limited time for them to do that work. But the best thing we can do is to give them space and time and trust that they touch the ground running. Immediately we see the white smoke. The same moment, we need to see them doing something, laying ground for the next by-elections, because I think that will be their very, very first assignment. Then after the by-elections, they have also to think about boundary delimitations or boundaries review, before they think about voter registration, before we think about
voters register.
Yes.
And all that.
Yes, there is a whole lot of things. And these things are time-bound. And therefore, we sit at a space where the IABC, I would say it's behind schedule before it is constituted.
It looks so easy for them from outside, but the moment they step into office and everybody has a working space, then that's the moment they start to realize that there's so much that has been in store for them for the last 2 years.
Precisely.
Right.
Precisely.
Okay, Patrick.
I want to say one, that delimitation will not be a factor, especially to these coming elections. It can only be applicable in 2032. So to me, I would say it is not a priority, though there will be a lot of issues, one, because of the allocation of funds to run the elections. And also, I want to say that it is important for us as citizens of this country also to participate fully, and especially the young people, that you cannot sit at home with no ID or with no voter and not or going to vote, and then we expect to have, the winning or the persons or the leaders that we want in this country. Reason is that failure to vote is voting in bad leadership. So what I want to call for young people is to make sure that they go take the IDs, go register as voters. And what we want to see in this country is not the formation that I've witnessed, is to see formations of a new clique of leaders who are determined not to have irregularities in IBC, who are determined not to have a lot of nepotism within the circles. And I want to say this for lack of doubt. Many of the things that have happened before is what makes us to be pessimistic at times. We have, and a lot of things in this country whereby we live in fear today. It is not possible, and I want to say again, it's not possible for the Kenyan today or the young people to have trust, even with the leadership that is here today or the parliament that is there today. Because we have seen that all these leaders are allegiance either to the political party, allegiance to a particular person, allegiance to the state. So what we are seeing today, we are not seeing what is the will of the Kenyan people. So what I want to say, what there is that let us be credible, let us be patriot, let us stand firm to make sure that we bring the leadership that is credible for us as Kenyans.
I mean, electoral management in the country is one of the biggest issue, and probably has been another problem that IBC faces, electoral management. Either there's one clique of the commission not so much in unison with the other commission. That in itself will create some fissure in the commission. Then how would we bring this collegiality again, coming back to that, so that the commission can run seamlessly? Starting with the management of the Electoral Commission, execution of their mandate, and also delivering credible elections, so that at one point Kenyans will say that the commission which was selected through their public participation has delivered to them a good and credible election.
I think as a country we must pride ourselves that we have strengthened our electoral process after every general election, particularly after the bungled elections of 2007. And the IEBC, the unity of the IEBC rests with the person of the chair.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the demeanor, the chair of the IEBC is everything. Once you have a competent chair, and you know, the threshold for the qualifications of the chair of the IEBC is that of the judge of the Supreme Court. I think
that statement belongs to the chair. Who will be picked?
Yes, so...
Right?
No, we cannot speculate who will be picked.
No, whoever. Because there are two names already.
No. Those are yours. Those are rumors. We don't know. There are many who sat for the same, and the names are with the president.
Whoever will be approved by the parliament.
And in due course, the president will send a name of the next chair of IEBC for vetting and approval or disapproval by the National Assembly. And that is why the appointment process is not absolute to the president. It is the president plays as an insignificant role of approving a name from those appointed and forwarded through a rigorous process. And so whoever ends up as the chair of IEBC is ending up as the chair of IEBC on merit, not because of political appointment and affiliation, because we expect a very, very independent and impartial commission. So according to me, we have simulated a free and independent IBC over time. Even this process that we are going through, the process, the happenings of 2022 are great lessons of experience. And our electoral system has gone absolutely digital, and I hope the ICT infrastructure will even be strengthened so that in future, because the first ballot in every polling station to be tallied and declared is that of the president. And if many polling stations will close by 5 p.m. of each day, a few will extend into the night because of high voter turnout. Any declaration at the polling station is final, and if it were to be digitally transmitted by 9 o'clock with our ICT infrastructure, and you see Kenya, one of the biggest pillars that the president is implementing is the digital superhighway and ICT infrastructure. We are getting into the fourth industrial revolution. I see Kenya in the near future joining the US in delivering quick and instant and real-time results. And by 9 o'clock, the president will likely have been known.
Are we there yet? We didn't even see any opposition.
Let me tell you, we will be there. Can you remember?
Are we there
some of the young men here
election
who may not know.
In this country, you have contested for opposition.
There was a time.
It's a matter of life and death.
There was a time the returning officer in the elections during Moi era was the district commissioner. And during Moi era and Kenyatta era, there was nothing like a president having a manifesto. It was only peace, love, and unity, and that is it. And the returning officer was the DC, and you appoint a chair of something. But you see, we've evolved over time to real modern democratic practices. And we are getting into a time, we will get into a future where even we don't need to.
I'd really love to wake up.
Get into a future.
I would be very happy to wake up to that
where
day.
Kenyans will go to the offices, walk to a polling booth, vote, and continue working.
I'd be very happy.
Because elections will be demystified.
Yes.
And Kenyans will know.
Let me get from
whoever is to be pronounced is the one who masters the highest number of votes.
I love the way you put that point. Giving us a history from Kenyatta era
so
to
that
here.
My younger brother here, my agency, whom we've made and given them the best knowledge, to know the history and the journey of work, and know that they have a responsibility to carry the country into the future without doubts. Let us have a country where trust
give time to your younger brother. Give time to your younger brother.
Is the brand. And therefore, the new IABC, the brand should be trust. And I believe it will be.
I'll talk about that trust.
Let me say,
yes,
with lack of doubt, that what we are seeing in the country today is deterioration of integrity. Honorable Sosion here will tell you, in some years back, just a few years back, people used to have newspapers on the road. They would buy and leave the money and leave the change. And I want them to attest this happened in this country. So where we went wrong is where I do not know. So what we are talking about here is not even digitalizing our process or even digitalizing anything. What we are talking about here is the process at which, because these gadgets and equipment are controlled by human beings. As long as we have nepotism, as long as we do not have, independent people running an election, we will still have a lot of malpractice in this country. And that is why I have said and have called upon our security agencies. Immediately, the electioneering period is declared. Let them take charge so that we camp any issues that can come after, especially for people fighting. And two, I have seen a lot of goonism in our politics today. Let us have our security agencies camp such kind of things, because what we have seen here, he will tell you, members of parliament and other, people elected within the constituency on county level, what they do, they use a lot of goonism to make sure that they steal elections. So, and also again, can we have the commissioners, if need be, distributed to various counties or sections, so that now immediately the elections are concluded in various stations, it is announced there. And what the national IBC commissioners to do is just to tally. So that now we can say at least we are minimizing the malpractice or we're minimizing people stealing elections in this country. It is a very major problem, and that which we need to take it very serious, not just serious, and especially this time of our time.
Yeah.
And as I was said earlier, integrity in this country is the biggest issue in this country. People being lied to, things being taken, people taking law, on their hands without consideration that we have security agencies, without considering that we have people who are supposed to take charge. So what I want to say, and I will repeat again, it is our security agencies, immediately electioneer period is declared, to be deployed in all counties and areas to make sure that nobody uses goons, nobody in any case does anything, and especially making sure that we do not have a credible election come 2027.
Peter, the issue of trust in the commission has always been a very big issue. People say that, okay, we want to do this and all that, but the trust from Wanjiku itself, or Wanjiku herself in the commission to deliver an election, someone would say that there is some sense of doubt. So what should the commission do to win the trust of Wanjiku, even as we head towards a general election 2027 and even more to come?
Trust deficit is not just a discrepancy within the commission itself, but it's a society issue in our communities. When you look at it very clearly, even picking from what my brother has just mentioned, that there was a time we would go and buy a newspaper and leave the money there, take away the newspaper.
Keep change.
That is not, you give yourself change and you take the newspaper and go. That is not an IBC trust issue. That's a societal issue. And therefore, again, looking at also having good laws and people not willing to follow the laws and processes is not, again, a government issue. It's a societal issue. Look at what happened on Sunday at Uhuru Stadium. There are regulations, there are laws, there are processes on how fans should behave. There is a good number of security personnel on the ground, but the fans end up crashing and fighting and maiming each other. So you cannot blame entirely IABC for that. You can really blame the society for that. Talking of IABC, because that's a conversation on the table. And therefore, as we talk about trust deficit within state agencies and independent commissions, National Police Service, IABC, and other state departments, entirely it is not primarily a deficit in trust within those commissions. It's a deficit in trust within ourselves as the people of the country. And therefore the question we need to ask ourselves is, why is this mistrust at such a high level that people, because of mistrust, are willing to go crazy, break the law because they don't trust the law enforcer? And going forward, talking about IABC, I would encourage every one of us, every Kenyan citizen, to really read the Electoral Code of Conduct, whatever that one is, follow it and wait for the result. Go vote, go back home, wait for the result. Trust the process. If there is anything that we think IBC has not done right, if any party is aggrieved, go to court, put up a petition, let it be heard through the required legal framework, let it be determined, whatever the court decides, because the judiciary is also independent. Let us trust the outcome of the court. That's the only way we will start growing a community that is able to trust. Remember, the faculty to trust is not just, does not just happen. It is a journey that a child picks from the time they are born. The moment your father, your mother, your brother, your elder brother or sister goes out and says, hey, naenda job, nitakuletea sweetie. Then you are 2-3 years. Jioni, arudi na hiyo peremende. Then your faculty to trust starts to develop. And therefore, when you become old, you are an adult person, you're a leader somewhere, you'll be able to easily trust what you hear, your colleagues, your peers tell you. But now that today we have a generation that is unable to trust, everyone is suspicion to the other one. You are being suspected as you suspect those suspecting you. It is a clear indication that our roots have been shaky. Our faculty to trust did not develop from childhood. And this is a generational issue that we have to confront and deal with more intentionally and more from a psychological perspective, more patiently.
Yes.
Because it's not ever going to happen overnight.
So basically what I'm trying to say is that whatever is affecting us is more of a societal issue.
It's a societal weakness, yes.
But I think that it's also been implanted in us because the Constitution itself and the institution of electoral management lies with the Commission. So if their mandate expects them to do a certain thing and they do the opposite, then that trust deficit will be there. But even as you want to respond to that, Sosion, there is that issue of the chronic underfunding and physical mismanagement of the Commission.
Yeah, before I comment on funding and chronic...
underfunding.
Yes, because if you underfund the Commission, it cannot work. That's a fact for sure. Let me come to the breakdown of values and value systems in society. It is not right to transpose the societal breakdown of values and value systems and impose it as what is expected in the persons being appointed as commissioners, chair, and even the management staff of the IABC. Remember, after 007, the IC that was there, EC, Electoral Commission, was disbanded and all the staff actually transferred out of EC completely because we needed a pedigree trusted IABC. So persons of integrity should serve in the IABC. From the secretarial staff to the IABC. So let us not try and imagine that the societal corruption values which have gone down we still expect it from the IABC. But then it's a cautionary thing to ask IABC to operate above board. Number two, on security, we must not weaponize our elections by imposing the police to look like we cannot be so democratic and mature that we must need security. Let's look at what happens in real civilized jurisdiction like the US. You rarely see the police anywhere near because the citizens are organized. Walk into a polling booth, cast your vote, it is captured, and in fact, in those jurisdictions, registration to be a voter is continuous. It even goes on up to the election day. You can register as a voter on that particular day and cast your vote. That's continuous. It becomes a right. You can vote outside the country and post your vote, which is what is diaspora voting, which has happened now in Kenya. We have allowed diaspora voting. I think we are progressing. And I would rather caution my Gen Z student to know where we are coming from and to know that we have to depolice. We have to depolice.
How America is.
We have to depolice our electoral process and trust it to an extent that going into the future, the excitement that will be in the country is only about the process and the outcome.
Just ask that, Sosion. Who is question you've asked? Just a minute before you answer that. Who is to change that notion? Because when it comes to election, it becomes a matter of life and death in this country. In the US, you're talking about, just a minute, in the US, you're talking about, when it comes to election, it's like, it's a holiday.
Yes.
It's a celebratory mood. Everyone, the environment itself is felt across the world. But in Kenya, it changes into something, but because about security, don't do that, security, don't do that.
Because of the history of their democracy. You know, that's the land of the free and they value. Voting in America is the biggest thing, and in any democracy like ours.
Your student wants to interject.
No. Let me finish. Let me conclude. Let me conclude first. Then he will have all the space and all the time to react to that. I think, and you have asked who is to change. It is you in this show. It is me in this show. It is him. It begins with each one of us. If we can begin a culture of trust of the process and we play by the rules, and of course the electoral codes that guides the behavior, the conduct of candidates during elections, reasons for disqualification, they are there. And those rules, we must abide by them. Things like goon. How do you bring in goons to interfere with the process? Those are, the rules are indeed very clear, and we don't need the police. We only need to play by the rules and penalize those who are violating the code. And then you've asked the last question, the most important question, funding of IABC. I dare say Kenya has funded its electoral process satisfactorily. And I think there are good reasons to do that, because we've seen peaceful elections in 2013, 2017, 2022, where the disputes don't go back to the public to determine, to fight. We have seen where, even if there are disputes, they move to the Supreme Court, a determination is made, and Kenyans agree, and indeed move on. So I still would believe that funding IABC substantially and satisfactorily to do a good job is important, particularly in the aspect of installing modern ICT infrastructure.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to a day where by 9 p.m. of the polling day,
we have
known the president.
And life goes on. All right, Patrick.
We've known the president, and the life goes on, and people begin celebrating in the evening. Those who have lost should be able to congratulate those who have won, and we have a good nation.
I would really be very happy if what Honorable Sossion is saying, and if it is practical. But he is forgetting that, as they have claimed that we have a societal problem, which I agree with. Because if we have a societal problem, then it translates all the way to our offices. And again, having lived in the US for 4 years, and I wanted to understand why this country is a first world country, why this country is, aligned to some democracy in the world. I also realize that much of the vocal political parties there are only two, despite the fact that they may have others. But in our country today, the difference between the US and Kenya, we have 92 political parties in purporting to...
And all of them are active.
Yes, purporting to display democracy, which is a confusion. And what I want to say right now, just to pinpoint a few issues to see whether as a country we follow these guidelines or principles of governance. One, do we have an accountable government or leadership or system since we got independent? Do we have a transparency or a transparent system since we got independent? Do we have a responsive government since independent? Do we have an equitable and inclusive government since independent? Do we have effective and efficiency government system in place? Do we have a government that is following rule of the law? Absolutely. Do we even have participatory and consensus kind of government? I will tell you, Mr. Oro, that since independent, none of these qualities or principles of governance we have as a country. And that is why the young people are very suspicious, because the problem we have today, and Honorable Sossion will tell you, and Mr. Jeru will tell you here, because they have been here before, that the problem we have today is so deep-rooted. It's not even about Ruto. It's about reforms, it's about systems that need to be uprooted, so that at the end of the day, we have a clean system. And that is why myself running for presidency of this country, I am very, very suspicious to wonder how we will have credible elections. Yet, to date, today, everyone is making noises, not actually to elections, to the development and things that are supposed to be catered for a common citizen in this country. So what I want to say is that let us, if it is about, and he has said about the goonism in election time, that is why I'm calling the security agencies in this country, that let them be present and supervise and make sure that no one brings goons, no one steals elections, so that now at the end of the day we become proactive, so that we do not have to have consequences to sort later, whereby we're having post-elections, fight and all that kind of consequences.
Something I just to remind you that Peter Njeru is a match commissioner with FKF. So let's bring it back home. He's also, the same way Sossion is also a teacher,
Right.
Chemistry, physics, social?
Chemistry, agriculture.
Thank you. So let's bring it to football. For example, Kenya is a very large open field. Everybody's playing 11-11. The referees, they've got linesman, all that. So how do you play this football now, moving from now to 2022?
Speaking about football, football is governed by laws of the game.
Yes.
There are 17 of them. There are 17 laws.
17 laws, okay. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, the 17 laws, we, as a match of issues, we also have an additional one, law number 18.
Which is?
That's common sense.
Okay. So how do you relate the two?
When we now look at the portrait of football as a game and the portrait of our country as a nation that requires good leadership, we need to be governed by laws. In this country, we have the Constitution, which is the supreme governing document of our nation.
Yes.
And also, picking from where my brother left, where he cast suspicion on every aspect of leadership. The best question to ask is, even when there are all these suspicions within the law, within the provisions of the law, do we have relevant fallback plans when those suspicions are valid? And the answer is yes. And therefore, it's good to imagine and agree that development evolves. Development evolves. It doesn't just happen overnight. You have the ideal situation this morning, just as you woke up, everything is heaven on earth. Like my brother Sosion painted a progressive report of what has happened since Jomo Kenyatta era to Moi era to Kibaki era to Uhuru Kenyatta era and now to our president, Dr. William Ruto's era. There is incremental advancement of our democratic space and incremental advancement of electoral system. All of them in the right direction.
Correct.
And so what we need to focus on now are these advancements being made today driving us in the correct direction.
Thank you.
And if that is the answer to that, we should be able to celebrate where we are and of course lament where there are grievous weaknesses and advocate for proper development.
I want us to stop this discussion here because next is it's all about dispute resolution. All right? And in this country, have we actually explored many avenues to have our dispute resolution? The ADR. Can we also use it during election? Vivian Lego has that discussion coming up. So, I know you have so much to say, but we have to finalize here. Allow me. We'll be here next week to discuss that, sir. If you allow.
See you next week.
Thank you so much. My name is Victor Lo. Thank you, Sosion. Since former NATSEC Gen and nominated MP, Patrick Osoy, governance expert and a political analyst, and Peter Njero, also political analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. We expect much more to come. Now the president has got that report in his desk, and the next process is to follow until the final appointment of the commissioners and the chairman. My name is Victor Lo. Good morning.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
Ambassador Daniel Kazungu Mzee was born in 1970 in Kavilani, Malindi in Kilifi County. He started his early education at Marikano and Langobaya primary schools in Malindi before he joined Kwale High School for his O-levels. Kazungu later joined Moi University where he acquired his degree and master's in information science. After graduation, he worked at the Institute of Advanced Technology as a training consultant before moving to Computech, where he was deployed to a United Nations agency. He later joined FinTech International as a sales representative of Microsoft and Compaq across East Africa region before switching to IBM in New York, where he was in charge of personal computing division in East Africa. From IBM, he moved to Lenovo Corporation East Africa as regional manager before returning to IBM, where he finally served as country representative for Ethiopia and Kenya. Kazungu switched to politics in the year 2013 when he vied and won the Malindi parliamentary seat. In the 11th House, he served in 3 departmental committees on energy, regional integration, as well as that of communication and information. Kazungu quit parliament when he was nominated the mining cabinet secretary in December of 2015. As a CS, his work was clearly cut out. He repealed the 76-year-old Mining Act and delivered Kenya's first mining strategy and policy. Under his watch, he improved Kenya's Fraser Report ranking in early 2016 from position 125 out of 126 countries to position 86. Kazungu was instrumental.
And we are on. This is Good Morning Kenya, and it gets to continue. Now, right now, I'm getting into a whole nother conversation, and we are going to be talking about alternative dispute resolution, and we'll be looking at mediation as an alternative dispute resolution. And joining me for this conversation are 2 gentlemen that I will allow to introduce themselves, beginning with you, sir.
Yeah, my name is Chacha Matiko, a chartered mediator and an accredited court-annexed mediator.
All right, thank you. Yourself?
I am Atunda Wambari, an accredited mediator also, and I'm also a lawyer.
Yeah. All right, it's a pleasure to have you on the show this morning. Let us begin by just defining what mediation is. Let's begin with you, Chacha, or you'll take that?
I will take that.
Okay.
Mediation is a form of dispute resolution where a neutral and impartial third party comes in to help disputants to resolve their issues amicably. Normally, the mediator does not make a decision or make a determination, but helps, facilitates the parties to come to an agreement. Yes.
Yeah. Are there different kinds of mediation?
There are different kinds of alternative dispute resolution. Mostly, people tend to confuse mediation and arbitration.
Okay.
There is a very clear and concise difference, because in an arbitration, a neutral third party comes in, but it is that third party that will make a determination, as opposed to mediation, where the mediator is in charge of the process, but the outcome is determined by the parties. Yes.
Okay. What are some of the key principles of mediation, Chacha?
Mediation is actually anchored on the following principles. 1, neutrality, impartiality. You have to be very impartial when you are leading a mediation process. And confidentiality. Everything you handle within mediation has to remain confidential within the confine of the disputants and you, the third neutral party. Yes.
Yeah. So those are the principles around it. You know, in mediation, there has to be a mediator. So when you talk about mediator, who exactly is this person and what is their responsibility?
First of all, I will say that anybody can be a mediator. In every sense, from the family setup We mediate matters every day.
Yeah.
You will find you have a dispute with your children, with your wife, with your co-workers, everywhere. And the first line of dispute resolution is actually mediation. But for us, we have now taken it up a notch higher because it has now been underpinned under the 2010 Constitution, Article 159 2C. Mediators are now trained and they take up matters in court.
Okay.
Like now we have the court-annexed mediation and private mediation. Yes.
Yeah. So what role exactly does it play in conflict resolution?
Mediation plays a very critical role because it brings together the two disputants. We don't call them claimants or plaintiffs. They are both of them equal and they are called disputants. It brings them together. It allows them to ventilate what has aggrieved them. That is what is the conflict. And they prioritize what are their interests, and then they're able to negotiate around their interests to be able to strike a compromise between the two parties and arrive at a settlement agreement. And that settlement agreement, if reduced in writing through a private mediation, it has to be it has to cover all the full issues of all the issues around their conflict. And if it's within the court annexed mediation, then it can be partial or full settlement. Once registered with the court and adopted by the judge or the magistrate, then it becomes a decree of the court.
So why exactly mediation? Aside from, other ways of resolving disputes, why mediation? If you try and just look at the differences, why mediation?
Yeah, mediation is key because as opposed to litigation or arbitration, whereby arbitration is private litigation, mediation has more advantages, and I'll only bring out three, which are key. That is, it will be able to save the costs you incur while you are in court litigation or in arbitration. It is also able to save time, because it spends like maximum of 60 days, at most 3 months, as opposed to litigation, which probably minimum would be 3 years or even more. Three, it saves relationship. Parties and human beings are interrelated, or they're related in one way or another before they get a conflict. But through litigation, they leave the courts with their relationship either broken down completely, but through mediation, they leave the session while having shaken hands. So it saves relationships. Three things: it saves the relationship, saves time, and saves money.
Yeah, compared to...
That is why we should go for mediation.
Yeah, you feel like this is the way to go?
Just to add on to what he has also said, mediation is a win-win. If you go for litigation, it's either one party wins or one party loses.
Yes.
But in a mediation, all the parties win because you get to arrive at a settlement that is conducive for both disputants. Yes.
Yeah, and even just maybe to speak on that, I'm sure every Kenyan will relate to the mediation that took place in the country back in the year 2007, 2008, when we had the post-election violence. We had a mediator come in to just resolve the dispute, and they got to resolve it, and the fight ended. So I get where you're coming from,
Exactly.
where we had Kofi Annan coming in and just, settling things. When you've talked about, maybe the backlogs and and how long, litigation takes, the time that it takes and the cost and all that. Can we talk about the current statistics on the backlogs, of court backlogs to be specific in Kenya? Do you have the statistics?
Yeah, going by, for example, the 2022-2023 judiciary annual reports, you'll realize that actually the backlog of cases in court is soaring. Just Milimani alone, you'll realize that in the magistrates' courts, we have about 330,000 cases pending. And if you go to the family division, High Court, we have 78,000 cases pending. If you go to the criminal division, 80,000 cases pending.
Wow.
Land is life. If you go to the land, environment and land division, 50,000 cases are pending. And compare that with the staffing level within judiciary. The judicial officers are grossly understaffed. They cannot uptake those backlog of cases. And this makes it necessary to employ, actually to respond to the spirit of Article 189, 189(2)(c) of the Constitution that allowed now Kenyans, they can use their traditional dispute resolution mechanism, including mediation. Yes.
You've touched on one of the causes of why we have such a backlog. Maybe what are some other reasons why we have such backlogs, in the courts?
Apart from understaffing, I think our lawyers also contribute because anytime there is a dispute, people tend to say, let's meet in court. And most of these cases, if just handled at mediation, could significantly reduce the number of cases that are filed at the courts. Nowadays, all matters must be screened. And if found suitable for mediation, it is referred to the court-annexed mediation program. Most of them, you find that there is a very high success rate in mediation, in resolving these disputes, as compared to litigation. And it takes a shorter time doing it at the same time. Yes.
In addition to that, you realize that the litigation system, which is backed up by several laws, it's highly technical. It also takes a lawyer a lot of time to prepare before going to court. And this contributes towards actually delaying the matters because the lawyers have to keep asking for adjournment, and they are right to do that because they have to prepare adequately for their clients. But in mediation, the rules are very simple. It just operates on principles without technicalities. Actually, it doesn't entertain technicalities. You don't actually mediate rules or laws within mediation. It is very flexible, and therefore it allows very fast process to be able to conclude a matter which would take 30 years. It can take 3 hours.
To add on to what you said, litigation is mostly about the party positions. This party will say, this is my position, and they take very hardline positions. Mediation looks at the interest of the parties. And you find that when they sit to look at the interest, they go deeper into the matter, and getting a resolution out of that becomes easier because at times one disputant may just need a simple I am sorry to solve a matter. It's sometimes never even about the court case itself.
But are there specific cases that mediation would suit? Because I'm thinking if it's a case of murder or something, just let's talk about the cases that are suitable for this, or is it all round?
Basically, mediation can be used to resolve almost all the cases, provided it's a dispute involving parties. And but there are some cases that would be not very suitable for mediation. Like, for example, when you are somebody who has committed a crime against the state, probably attempting to overthrow a government, that is not a case that can come for mediation because whom are you being mediated against? Because it's you and the state. But where we have individual parties involved, they are all suitable for mediation. We have seen even serious crimes like murder being mediated, like in the case of the Republic versus Mohammed. This case was in Wajir, and it is a renowned case, and the parties under Section 172 of the Criminal Procedure and Article 189, they were allowed to go for mediation, and they agreed, and the offender's family was able to pay the victim's family with camels, and they resolved, and they went back to the community, and they're living harmoniously. So we believe every dispute can be resolved through mediation. Complex succession and land matters have been resolved through mediation. We have had even Court of Appeal matters. I personally have had Court of Appeal matters, about 3, and I've seen parties resolving over land issues, squatter issues, and they are able to resolve amicably, and they live harmoniously, permanently. without having to go for any other appeal. Yes.
But one would argue, for example, the case that you've just talked about, the murder case, solving it by, giving out, camels or whatever, are we really doing the right thing, in such a case? Are we not encouraging it? Because one would do it because they know, okay, it would be easier for me to come out of it. Like there's no you don't get the punishment that, would be, this is actually real punishment, just giving out some goats or some camels.
I agree with you, Vivian.
Yeah.
But before a matter is referred for mediation, judiciary or the judicial officers, they normally carry out something called screening to find the suitability of the matter being referred to mediation. If it's a situation where somebody has just decided to get hold of his wife's head and splash it on the wall and kill her, I don't think that needs mediation. But where it has happened maybe accidentally, because people could be having a very small dispute, and out of wrestling, somebody falls and dies. This person did not intend to kill this person. This is the kind of murder I'm talking about that can be mediated.
Okay.
But not where you splash somebody's head on the wall and say, we can go for mediation. Yes.
Yeah. So it also depends.
So courts, it depends with the circumstance, and the courts normally are very careful when they are screening.
Because there could be a very thin line between, one just, making some offenses or doing some of these offenses knowing that, well, I won't get, like a long term, to serve in prison because, we can, talk it out in mediation. So there's clearly a thin line.
That's true.
Yeah.
And that is why not very many of such cases are referred to mediation. Mostly you find the most civil matters are the ones that are referred to mediation. Just to prevent that kind of an outcome that will open a flurry of people who will say, I have killed, I have maimed, I have done this intentionally. And then run back to mediation.
Okay, that's well noted. Now, when you began, you said anyone really can become a mediator, but how does one get an accredited one? Because as you mentioned, you're an accredited mediator. So how does one become an accredited mediator? And for someone who's looking to have mediation as a way of them resolving disputes, where do they get the accredited ones?
Yeah, prior to the coming of the white man's laws, the Commonwealth laws to Kenya before our independence, we used to have disputes and they were resolved traditionally. And it is that spirit that Kenyans borrowed and anchored it, did put it into their constitution of 2010. Therefore, anyone can be a mediator. And mediation, if you check in the country, it's not legislated, but it's already there and it's working. But now for you to be able to work alongside with judiciary, that is to be a court accredited mediator, one, you have to be trained to be a certified professional mediator. That is the entry point. Number two, after being trained, you have to be vetted in a process we call accreditation. That is a certain panel called Mediation Accreditation Committee within judiciary under the Chief Justice Office. They look at your papers, they look at the training you went through, they look at your conduct, and so many things before they can allow you to start practicing as a mediator within the court annexed mediator. That is when we say you are a court annexed mediator. Those who are trained and they are not accredited, they are also mediators. They can handle even private disputes. But their disputes, settlement agreements will not be registered in court because the court is not sure of their standards. Those who are accredited, the court is sure about their standards. They are able to write settlement agreements that actually can be implemented, that actually can be adopted by the court. So if you have a dispute and you approach a mediator who is court accredited, he knows what to do. He will actually guide you guys to dispute your issues, negotiate, and when you settle and write a settlement agreement, he is going to register it with the court. Once the court adopts it, you can go ahead and implement it, and it's not appealable whatsoever.
Okay.
Yes.
So is there a specific place where one can go check for accredited mediators?
Yeah, Judiciary has got a website.
Okay.
And if you go to the Judiciary website, under court annexed mediation, court annexed mediation. The first one I had talked about is Mediation Accreditation Committee.
Okay.
That one accredits, and then court annexed mediator. Mediation is the one that runs the day-to-day operations of mediation within the court, the secretariat. So in their portal, you'll be able to see a list of active court-accredited mediators. There could be some who are dormant for one reason or another. For example, judicial officers who are trained as mediators, they are not active because they cannot sit on the same matters. They cannot mediate the same matters they have been sitting on. So they could be there, but as dormant. So you cannot be given those ones. But those which are active, you can actually select any of them, and they can do for you your private mediation.
Okay.
Alternatively, you can also go to the International Mediation Institute, Netherlands, which registers all the internationally accredited mediators. In their website, you can find those mediators who can do even transboundary international transboundary disputes, or even disputes in other jurisdictions. Yes.
Yeah. Do you have cases where the judiciary just refers, this do we call them complainants? I'm not very
yes, we have
very good with the
and
law.
Defendants.
Yeah.
In the civil matters.
Yeah.
But in mediation, we call both of them disputants.
Okay.
Because we treat them as equal players on the mediation table.
Yeah. We have cases where they're just referred to mediation. The court decides, okay, this one, let's go the mediation.
Based on the numbers I mentioned to you, those are numbers for prior to 2022.
Yeah.
The current numbers are even bigger. The demand is growing. The court screens the files. For example, they age the files. And they say, let us pick files for the year this to this. Let's say files which are 10 years old and beyond, files which are 5 years and beyond. Then they screen, they see whether they are viable for mediation. Then they refer them to the mediation register secretariat.
Yeah.
Then the secretariat would identify mediators and assign the files to them.
So maybe to you, Lawi, where does the mediation take place? Does it also take place in the courts, or where exactly?
There are the court annexed mediations that if you go to like Milimani Court, there is a special place where mediation is conducted. If not that, if the places are all booked, you can be assigned a court where you can sit and do the mediations. You can also decide, if you are in agreement with the parties, to get a place where you can do this mediation. One of the principles of mediation is confidentiality. And it must be in a place where only the disputants and the mediator are, to ensure that confidentiality is upheld.
Okay, so there are specific places for doing the mediation.
Yes.
I want you to, Chacha had touched a bit on the timelines. I want you to get, into the timelines of mediation versus court. Of course, we're saying there's a backlog of cases in courts. There are cases that have been ongoing for the last even 10, 20, 30 years. Is there a specific timeline for mediation? When you say 6 months, does it, not 6 months rather, 60 days, does it mean that within those 60 days, this case needs to be done when it's the mediation way? Just speak to us on the timeline.
The court gives a timeline for 60 days. And there is a process from when a mediator is assigned the case. You do a notice of preliminary meeting, and then from there you now start the mediation. In between, there is what is called caucus. You can have a breakout with the parties differently. Matters that cannot be canvassed where all the disputants are can be actually discussed in private. And when you break out, you find that there are actually much more. And the much that you get helps in breaking down or breaking the ice on this matter. So, because mediation delves deeper into a matter, it also makes resolution faster. because you will get to find that this is actually what this disputant is after. And if well presented to the other party, then a compromise is arrived at. As opposed to litigation, the court has its own processes, from filing a case to the mentions to the hearings, and the hearings can take a long, long, long time. We've had matters that have been in court. I have personally handled a matter in mediation that has been in court for 22 years.
Wow. Yeah.
And we managed to solve this matter in a span of 2 months. If, however, you cannot resolve that case in the 60-day period, you can ask the court to give you a little more time to solve the matter. But rarely does a matter go for 6 months, 1 year without a resolution, unless the party just wants to, maybe one of the parties is playing to waste the court's time. Yeah.
Yeah. You had something to add on that, Chacha?
Probably, I quite want to be associated with the sentiments of my colleague.
Yeah.
What happens is that once the court has given you the time limit, this time limit is actually anchored under the mediation rules within the Civil Procedure Act, Cap 21. And this is to ensure that mediators don't go to sleep with the files, to just keep them pending, but they go to actually facilitate the parties to agree within a stipulated time. The essence of mediation and court-annexed mediation is actually to reduce the backlog of cases in court. So we do not want a process which delays the matter further or recycles the matter back to court. Yes.
Yeah. So who's present during mediation? You know, just to get to understand, there's a mediator, there's the one who's brought the dispute, like just...
Usually, people would have a relationship.
Yeah.
And when it breaks down, it becomes a conflict. So the two become disputants in the matter, and the mediator becomes a third neutral party.